The last command of the Galactic Council. Majors echoed through a fallen Empire part. One commander, Elijah Carter, stood alone on the observation deck of the Earth defense vessel Defiance. The stars looked the same as always, cold and distant. But everything had changed. The message from the Galactic Council majors still played in his mind. Preserve what remains. Humanity must endure. Carter rubbed his tired eyes. The Galactic Council had existed for over 10,000 years. It had united 3,000 different alien species across 12 arms of the galaxy. Now it was gone, destroyed in less than a month by the Void Collective. Commander, a voice called from behind him. You should see this. Carter turned to see Major Olivia Winters, his second in command. Her normally neat uniform looked wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. No one had slept much in the past. 3 days. What is it? Carter asked. Another council ship just arrived. A Zoridian medical vessel. They say Proxima Station is completely gone. Winters handed him a data pad. There's nothing left. Carter took the pad and looked at the images. Where the massive Proxima Station once orbited, there was only debris and darkness. The seat of galactic government for 10 millennia, reduced to floating metal and dust. How many survivors? He asked. 43 Zoridians. 28 Peldari diplomats. A handful of others. Winters paused. No council majors. Carter nodded slowly. That confirmed it. The final transmission they had received was truly the last command of the council. Admiral Gregory has ordered all Earth vessels to gather at Saturn, Winters continued. We're to bring any survivors or refugee ships we find along the way. Carter walked to the large viewport. From here, he could see the Defiance's escort ships, 3 smaller Earth vessels and a damaged council cruiser they had rescued near Neptune's orbit. The cruiser carried over 200 refugees from 11 different species. It's strange, Carter said quietly. 20 years ago, the council barely accepted humans into their ranks. They said we were too aggressive, too unpredictable. He turned to look at Winters. Now they're trusting us to preserve what's left. Winters stood beside him at the viewport. We were the newest members, maybe that's why we survived. The collective hit the oldest council worlds first. Plot a course to Saturn, Carter ordered. Maximum safe speed, and keep scanning for distress signals. As Winters left to relay his orders, Carter remained at the viewport. He thought about Earth, about humanity's short time as part of the galactic community. Humans had struggled to fit in with the ancient alien civilizations. The council races had technologies thousands of years beyond Earth's. They had cultures and traditions older than human recorded history. Yet now, those ancient races were falling, one by one. The Void Collective moved through the galaxy like a storm, destroying everything in its path. The door to the observation deck slid open again. This time, it was Dr. Frank Nelson, the ship's chief medical officer. The doctor looked exhausted. Commander, I need to speak with you about our refugees, Nelson said. How bad is it? Carter asked. We've got 19 different species on board now. Each has different medical needs, different foods, different atmospheric requirements. Nelson ran a hand through his gray hair. My team is doing their best, but we weren't designed for this. Carter nodded. The Defiance was a military vessel, not a passenger ship. What do you need? More space, more medical supplies, and someone who understands Tyrellian biology. We have 3 of them in critical condition. When we reach Saturn, you'll have whatever you need, Carter promised. Until then, do what you can. As Nelson left, Carter's comm unit beeped. Commander, we're receiving a distress signal, said Lieutenant Andy Miller, the communications officer. It's faint, but it's definitely council encoding. How far? Carter asked. About half a light year off our course to Saturn. It's coming. From a small research outpost on one of the moons of a gas giant. Carter thought for a moment. Admiral Gregory's orders were clear. Proceed directly to Saturn, but the council's final command echoed in his mind. Preserve what remains. Change course, he ordered. Let's check it out. The journey to the outpost took 18 hours. As they approached, sensors showed minimal life signs and significant damage to the structure. Looks like they were hit by something, Winters reported from her station on the bridge. Not a direct attack, but maybe debris or shock waves from a nearby battle. Radiation levels? Carter asked. Within safe limits. We can send a team. Carter nodded. Prepare a rescue team, I'll lead it myself. 30 minutes later, Carter stepped onto the surface of the small, icy moon. 5 crew members followed him, each carrying medical supplies and emergency equipment. The research outpost was half buried in ice, its metal walls cracked and twisted. Life signs are coming from the central chamber, said Lieutenant Kelly Ross, checking her scanner. Multiple species, some very weak. They cut through the damaged door and entered the dark facility. Emergency lights cast red shadows across broken equipment and collapsed walls. Hello? Carter called out. We're from Earth, Defense Vessel Defiance, we're here to help. For a moment there was silence, then a voice answered from the darkness. Humans? The Council sent humans? An alien figure stepped into the dim light. It was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. A Merithian, one of the oldest Council races. I am Director Phelan, the alien said. We thought everyone had forgotten us. The Council is gone, Carter said quietly. But we received their final command. We're gathering survivors. Phelan's large eyes blinked slowly. Gone? All of it? Proxima Station has been destroyed. We don't know how many Council worlds still stand. We're taking all survivors to Saturn. Carter looked past Phelan and saw other shapes moving in the darkness. More survivors. How many of you are there? He asked. 22, Phelan replied. But we have something more important than our lives. The Merithian motioned for Carter to follow. Come, see what we preserved. In the back of the facility, protected by multiple security fields, was a small glowing cube. The archive, Phelan explained. A complete backup of the Council's central database, scientific knowledge, cultural records, star charts, the history of 3,000 civilizations. Carter stared at the cube. Something that small, yet containing. So much. Is it the only copy? He asked. Now perhaps yes, Phelan said sadly. There were 5. The others were kept on major Council worlds. Carter activated his comm unit. Winters, prepare the ship for 22 additional refugees, and will need special security for a high-priority Council artifact. As his team helped the survivors gather their few belongings, Carter looked again at the small glowing cube. The collective knowledge of the galaxy's greatest civilizations, now in humanity's care. 2 hours later, the Defiance continued its journey to Saturn, now carrying even more precious cargo. Carter returned to the observation deck, trying to make sense of all that had happened. Major Winters joined him there. The Merithian, Director Phelan, wishes to speak with you when you have time, she said. He says he has information about the Void Collective, about why they attacked. Carter nodded. Tell him I'll meet with him shortly. He looked out at the stars once more. What do you think, Olivia? Can we do this? Can humanity really preserve what's left? Winters stood beside him. The Council must have thought so, or they wouldn't have given us the command. Carter watched as the ship entered faster than light travel, the stars stretching into lines of light. Then we won't let them down, he said. The last command of the Galactic Council majors echoed through a fallen Empire part. The rings of Saturn glowed golden in the sunlight as the Defiance approached. Commander Carter had never seen so many ships gathered in one place. Hundreds of vessels orbited the giant planet, forming a makeshift city in space. Earthships, Council cruisers, civilian transports, Major Winters said, standing beside Carter on the bridge. Admiral Gregory has been busy. Lieutenant Miller looked up from his communication station. We're receiving docking instructions. We're directed to high orbit around Titan. Carter nodded. Take us in, Lieutenant. As the Defiance moved through the crowded space, Carter saw the damage on many of the ships. Burned hulls, missing sections, emergency patches. These were the survivors, the lucky ones who had escaped the Void Collective's attacks. "Commander," Miller called out, "Admiral Gregory is requesting your presence on Titan as soon as we dock. She specifically asked for you to bring Director Valen and the archive." 2 hours later, Carter stood in a large room carved into the rocky surface of Titan. Admiral Samantha Gregory had set up her command center in an old research base. Maps and screens covered the walls, showing the known galaxy. Too many areas were marked in red. "Commander Carter," Gregory said, rising from behind her desk. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and a face lined with worry. "Good to see the Defiance made it." "Admiral," Carter saluted. "We brought 22 survivors from the research outpost, plus the 200 we rescued near Neptune." "And the archive?" Gregory asked. Carter gestured to the Merithian standing beside him. "This is Director Valen. He can explain better than I can." The blue-skinned alien stepped forward, carrying a small container. Inside was the glowing cube they had rescued from the outpost. "This is a complete copy of the Council's central database," Valen explained in his soft voice. "All our knowledge, our history, our science. One of only 5 made." Gregory's eyes widened slightly. "And the others?" "Likely destroyed with the major council worlds," Valen said. "This may be the last." Gregory nodded slowly. "Then we'll keep it safe." She turned to Carter. "Commander, what do you know about our current situation?" Carter hesitated. "Only what we've seen ourselves. The Council is destroyed. The Void Collective is attacking Council worlds. Beyond that—" "Let me fill you in," Gregory said. She pressed a button, and the largest screen changed to show a map of the galaxy. "In the past month, we've lost contact with 87% of Council space. Major Council worlds have been confirmed destroyed. Proxima Station is gone." She pointed to a small area near the edge of the galaxy. "Earth and a few dozen nearby systems seem to be safe for now. The Collective is focused on the core worlds." "What exactly is the Collective?" Carter asked. "We've heard rumors, but—" Director Valen stepped forward. "They were once like us. Separate species, separate worlds, but they found a way to join their minds, their technologies, their very beings, into one entity." His large eyes blinked slowly. "They believe this is the natural evolution of all intelligent life, that all should join them." "By force, apparently," Winters said. Valen nodded. "Those who resist are eliminated as evolutionary dead ends." Gregory pointed to another screen showing images of strange ships. They looked like no vessels Carter had ever seen, with shapes that seemed to shift and change even as he watched. "Collective ships," Gregory explained. "Part organic, part machine. Extremely powerful. We've lost 5 Earth defense vessels trying to engage just one of them." Carter studied the images. "So what's our plan? Evacuation?" "Partly," Gregory said. "I've ordered all civilian ships to return to Earth. We're preparing for a possible full evacuation of the planet if it comes to that." She walked to another screen showing the Saturn system and all the gathered ships. "But we're also organizing a response. Operation Diaspora." "What's that?" Carter asked. "We're creating hidden sanctuaries throughout the galactic rim," Gregory explained. "Places to preserve what we can of Council civilization. Knowledge, technology, cultures, people." She looked at Carter intently. "The Defiance will be escorting one group to Sanctuary Delta. It's a large asteroid in the Oort cloud that we've been hollowing out for years as an emergency base." "What will be at Delta?" Winters asked. "A copy of the archive, for one thing," Gregory said, nodding to Valen, "along with scientists, historians, and refugees with specialized knowledge. Your job will be to protect them while they work." Carter frowned. "Work on what?" "Finding a way to fight back," Gregory replied simply. Later, as they walked through the base to their temporary quarters, Winters voiced what Carter was thinking. "Hiding? Creating sanctuaries? That's our big plan?" Carter shook his head. "What else can we do? You heard the Admiral. 5 of our ships couldn't stop one collective vessel. I know, Winter sighed. It just feels like we're giving up. Not giving up, Carter said. Preserving what remains, like the Council ordered. They turned a corner and nearly collided with a human man in a lab coat. Sorry, the man said, then looked at Carter more closely. Commander Carter, I'm Dr. Alan Nichols, Earth's xenobiology representative to the Council. Admiral Gregory said you rescued Director Valen and a copy of the archive. Carter nodded. That's right. Excellent. Nichols's face brightened. I've been working with a team to gather as much information as possible about the collective. The archive may have data we don't. Do you know anything about fighting them? Winters asked. Nichols's excitement dimmed. Not yet, but we're learning. Every bit of information helps. Dr. Nichols, a voice called from down the hallway. A young woman with red hair hurried toward them. The Arcturian delegates have arrived. They're asking for you. Thank you, Laura, Nichols said. He turned back to Carter and Winters. Dr. Laura Bennett, my assistant. Laura, this is Commander Carter and Major Winters from the Defiance. Bennett nodded to them. The ship that rescued Director Valen. The Arcturians are very interested in speaking with you. They say the Merithians might know something about the collective's origins. Carter raised an eyebrow. Really? Valen didn't mention that. The Merithians are one of the oldest council races, Nichols explained. Their records go back further than most. If anyone has encountered something like the collective before, it might be them. Carter thought for a moment. Arrange a meeting. I want to hear what the Arcturians have to say, and I want Valen there too. The next day, Carter sat in a conference room with Major Winters, Dr. Nichols, and Dr. Bennett. Across from them were Director Valen and 2 Arcturians. The Arcturians were tall beings with forearms and skin that shimmered with a metallic gleam. We believe the Merithians have encountered the collective before, said one Arcturian, named Elder Paz, not in its current form but as separate species that were beginning to merge. Valen's blue skin darkened, a sign of distress in his species. This was long before my time, but our records do speak of a sector of space that was sealed off by order of the earliest council. No ships were permitted to enter, no communications allowed. Why? Carter asked. The records only say that the species there were following a dangerous path, Valen replied, that they were becoming something that threatened all other life. Elder Paz leaned forward. Our records are more specific. They speak of species that were merging their consciousness, creating a hive mind that consumed all it encountered. And you think that was the beginning of the collective? Nichols asked. We do, the other Arcturian, Elder Kayla, said. And we believe the old council's containment has finally failed. Carter looked at the aliens around the table. If this is true, if the early council knew about this threat, why didn't they destroy it when they had the chance? Valen's large eyes closed briefly. That was not the council's way. They believed in containment and study, not destruction. Well, their way got them destroyed, Winters said bluntly. The room fell silent. Then Dr. Bennett spoke up. The final command, she said quietly, preserve what remains. Maybe the old council knew this might happen someday. Maybe they were preparing for it all along. Carter considered her words. By bringing humanity into the council, we were the newest members, the least connected to their networks. And the most aggressive, Elder Paz added. The species most likely to fight when others would retreat. Either way, Gregory said from the doorway, where she had been listening. We have our orders. From tomorrow, Operation Diaspora begins. The Defiance leaves for Sanctuary Delta with the first group. As the meeting broke up, Carter found himself looking at the stars through a small viewport. Somewhere out there, the collective was destroying worlds that had stood for thousands of years. And humanity, barely a footnote in galactic history, was now tasked with preserving what remained. It seemed impossible. But the last command of the Galactic Council Majors had been clear. Humanity must endure. The last command of the Galactic Council. Majors echoed through a fallen empire part. The journey to Sanctuary Delta took 3 weeks. The Defiance led a small convoy of 5 ships through the emptiness of the outer solar system, beyond the orbit of Pluto, into the vast cloud of ice and rock that surrounded the sun. Commander Carter spent most of his time in meetings with the scientists and refugees aboard the ships. Dr. Nichols and Dr. Bennett had joined them, along with Director Valen and 30 other alien scholars from 12 different species. All of them were experts in their fields: biology, physics, history, technology. "There it is," Major Winters said as they finally approached their destination. Sanctuary Delta. Carter looked through the main viewport. Ahead of them floated an asteroid about 20 miles across. From the outside, it looked like any other space rock. But Carter knew that inside, Earth engineers had been working for years to hollow it out. "It doesn't look like much," he said. "That's the point," Winters replied. "The collective won't notice it among thousands of similar asteroids." The ships approached a hidden entrance on the dark side of the asteroid. Large doors slid open, revealing a docking bay big enough for all 5 vessels. Once inside, Carter was impressed. The interior of the asteroid had been transformed into a small city. Living quarters, research labs, food production areas, and power generators filled the hollowed-out space. At the center was a large open area with trees and plants growing under artificial light. "Welcome to Sanctuary Delta," said Lieutenant Ryan Jackson, the security chief for the base. "Home sweet home, at least for now." "How many people are already here?" Carter asked as Jackson led them through the base. "About 500, Jackson replied. "Mostly engineers and support staff. You're bringing the first wave of Council refugees." They reached a large room filled with computer equipment. Dr. Bennett was already there directing the installation of the archive. "Commander," she greeted him. "We're getting the archive set up. Once it's online, we can access all of the Council's knowledge." "How long will that take?" Carter asked. "A few days," Bennett said. "The cube is compatible with our systems thanks to Director Valen's help, but there's an enormous amount of data to process." Carter nodded. "Keep me updated on your progress." Over. The next week, the refugees settled into their new home. Carter established security protocols with Lieutenant Jackson, set up communication channels with the other sanctuaries, and prepared the Defiance for future missions. One evening, Carter found Dr. Bennett working late in the archive room. Screens around her displayed strange symbols and images. "Making progress?" he asked. Bennett looked up, her eyes tired but excited. "Amazing progress. The archive contains knowledge from thousands of years of Council history, scientific discoveries we never imagined, cultural records from civilizations that are now gone." She pointed to one screen showing a star map. "Look at this. The archive has detailed maps of the entire galaxy, including areas humans have never explored." "Any information about the collective?" Carter asked. Bennett's excitement dimmed. "Some, not as much as we hoped. The Council knew about the sealed sector that Director Valen mentioned, but the details are restricted." "Restricted? By who?" "The original Council majors thousands of years ago," Bennett explained. "Even in the archive, some information is locked behind security protocols that we can't break." Carter frowned. "That seems strange. Why lock information in their own archive?" "Maybe they were afraid of what might happen if everyone knew," Bennett suggested. "Or maybe they were hiding something." Before Carter could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the base. Red lights flashed in the corridor. "Warning, a computer." Voice announced. "Unidentified vessel detected. Approach vector suggests intercept course with Sanctuary Delta." Carter rushed to the command center where Major Winters and Lieutenant Jackson were already working at the control panels. "What do we have?" Carter asked. "Single ship," Winters reported. "Small, about the size of a Council scout vessel. But it's not transmitting any identification codes." "Collective?" Carter asked, feeling a chill. Jackson shook his head. "Doesn't match any known collective designs, but it's definitely headed straight for us." "How did they find us?" Carter wondered aloud. "We're just one asteroid among millions out here." "They might have followed us," Winters suggested, "or detected our energy signature." Carter made a quick decision. "Battle stations. Power-up weapons." But don't fire unless I give the order. Throughout Sanctuary Delta, people moved to emergency positions. The Defiance powered up its engines, ready to launch if needed. The ship is hailing us, Jackson reported. Audio only. Let's hear it, Carter ordered. Static filled the speakers, then a voice came through. Sanctuary Delta, this is Captain Leo Hayes of the Earth vessel Horizon. We seek refuge. Please respond. Carter and Winters exchanged looks of surprise. Horizon? Winters said. That's one of the deep space exploration ships. They were on a 5-year mission to the edge of Council space, and should have been nowhere near Earth when the collective attacked, Carter added. Open a channel. Jackson pressed some buttons. Channel open. Horizon. This is Commander Elijah Carter of Earth Defense, Vessel Defiance. Your arrival is unexpected. Identify yourself with proper codes. There was a pause, then. Sending authentication codes now. Numbers appeared on Jackson's screen. He checked them against a database. Codes match, he confirmed. It's really the Horizon. Allow them to dock, Carter ordered. But maintain security protocols. I want armed guards at the docking bay. An hour later, Carter stood in the docking bay as the airlock opened. 20 people walked out, led by a tall man with a beard and a captain's uniform. Captain Hayes, Carter said, extending his hand. Commander Carter, Hayes replied, shaking it. Thank you for letting us in. We've been running for weeks. Running from what? Carter asked. Hayes's face was grim. The edge of Council space is gone, Commander. Completely gone. We were studying a star system near the border when we received emergency transmissions. By the time we turned back, most of the outer colonies were already destroyed. How did you find us? Winters asked. We intercepted a coded transmission about Operation Diaspora, Hayes explained. We've been searching for any sanctuary we could find. Carter nodded. Well, you found us, but you may have led others here too. We were careful, Hayes insisted. Changed course multiple times, used asteroids for cover. As they walked through the base, Hayes continued his story. We saw one of them, Commander, a collective ship. It was changing as we watched it, growing new sections, absorbing materials. You're lucky you escaped, Carter said. Luck had nothing to do with it, Hayes replied. They ignored us. We were too small to bother with. They were after bigger targets. In the command center, Hayes showed them the data. His ship had collected images of collective vessels destroying entire space stations, readings of energy weapons more powerful than anything the Council had developed. But we found something else, Hayes said. Something that might help. He nodded to one of his crew members who placed a small object on the table. It looked like a piece of metal, black and shiny. What is it? Carter asked. A fragment from a collective ship, Hayes said. We found it floating in space after they destroyed the Peldari colony. We think it broke off during the attack. Dr. Nichols, who had joined them, leaned forward with interest. A piece of collective technology? Intact? Not quite intact, Hayes said, but enough for study. This could be extremely valuable, Nichols said to Carter. If we can understand their technology, maybe we can find a weakness. Carter nodded. Take it to your lab, but be careful. As the others left to examine the fragment, Carter stayed behind with Winters. What do you think? He asked her. About Hayes? His story checks out, she replied. About the fragment? I don't know, it seems too convenient. My thoughts exactly, Carter said. Keep an eye on them, and double the security around the archive. You think there's a connection? Carter shrugged. Maybe, or maybe I'm being paranoid. But the Council's last command was to preserve what remains. I intend to follow that order completely. That night, Carter couldn't sleep. He walked through the quiet corridors of Sanctuary Delta, thinking about how quickly everything had changed. A month ago, he was a human commander serving the mighty Galactic Council. Now the Council was gone, and humanity was trying to save what was left of a civilization thousands of years older than their own. He found himself at the viewing port, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the collective was spreading, destroying, consuming. and all that stood in their way was a handful of scattered sanctuaries, hidden in the darkness of space. The last command of the council majors echoed in his mind. Preserve what remains. Humanity must endure. He just hoped they could do more than merely endure. Somehow they needed to fight back. The last command of the Galactic Council majors echoed through a fallen empire part. 3 days after the Horizon's arrival, Dr. Nichols called an emergency meeting. Commander Carter, Major Winters, Dr. Bennett, Director Valen, and Captain Hayes gathered in the main lab. "We've analyzed the fragment from the collective ship," Nichols said, his voice tense. "What we found is disturbing." He activated a screen showing microscopic images of the black fragment. "This material isn't just technology. It's partly organic. It's alive." "Alive?" Winters repeated. "You mean like a living ship?" "More than that," Nichols explained. "The cells in this fragment contain DNA from multiple species. Some we recognize from council records. Some we don't." Carter frowned. "What are you saying?" "The collective doesn't just destroy other species," Nichols said grimly. "It absorbs them. Their knowledge, their technology, their very biological makeup. It's a hybrid of everything it consumes." Director Valen's blue skin darkened with distress. "This confirms our oldest warnings. The Forbidden Zone contained species that were merging into a single entity. There's more," Nichols continued. "The cells are still active, still trying to connect with each other, even separate from the main collective." "Is it dangerous?" Carter asked sharply. "Could it communicate our location?" "We don't think so," Nichols assured him. "We've contained it in a shielded chamber, and it's just a tiny fragment. But it proves how the collective functions. It's not just a group of species working together. It's a new form of life that grows by absorbing others." Dr. Bennett had been quiet, studying data on her tablet. Now she looked up. "I've been searching the archive for any information about similar biological patterns. There's something interesting. In the ancient medical records," she transferred an image to the main screen. It showed a cellular structure similar to what they had seen in the fragment. "This is from a quarantine case over 9,000 years ago," she explained. "A council exploration team returned from the edge of known space with a strange infection. Their cells were changing, merging with each other." "What happened to them?" Hayes asked. "They were placed in isolation," Bennett said. "The records say they were contained indefinitely by order of the council majors." Valen nodded slowly. This would have been right before the Forbidden Zone was established. Carter studied the images thoughtfully. So the collective might have started as some kind of infection or parasite? Something that made different species merge together? "It's possible," Nichols agreed. "And over thousands of years it evolved into something more. A collective consciousness controlling hybrid bodies and ships. That still doesn't explain how to fight it," Winters pointed out. "Actually, it might," Bennett said. She pulled up another file from the archive. "If it started as a biological process, there might be a way to disrupt it. The council scientists who studied the original infection were developing something before the case was taken over by the council majors." "Developing what?" Carter asked. "A kind of biological countermeasure," Bennett explained. "But the research was classified. The files are among those restricted sections I mentioned earlier." Carter turned to Valen. "As a council director, can you access these restricted files?" The Merithian shook his head. "Such information would only be accessible to the council majors themselves. And they are gone." The room fell silent as they considered this obstacle. Then Lieutenant Jackson's voice came over the comm system. "Commander, Carter to the command center immediately. We have a situation." Carter and the others hurried to the command center. Jackson was at the main console, his face worried. "We're picking up unusual energy readings," he reported. "About half a light year away, moving in our direction." "Collective?" Carter asked. "The pattern matches what Captain Hayes recorded," Jackson confirmed. "But it's just one ship, smaller than the others." "A scout," Hayes suggested. They might be searching the Oort cloud systematically. How? Long until it could detect us? Carter asked. Hard to say, Jackson replied. Our shielding should hide us from normal scans, but we don't know the full capabilities of collective sensors. Carter made a quick decision. Prepare the Defiance for launch. We'll intercept it before it gets close enough to detect the sanctuary. That's risky, Winters said. One Earth ship against even a small collective vessel? We won't engage unless absolutely necessary, Carter assured her. But we need to know what we're dealing with. If it changes course away from us, we'll let it go. If it heads straight for us, we'll know they can detect the sanctuary. I'm coming with you, Hayes said. My crew has seen these ships in action. We know what to look for. Carter nodded. Major Winters, you'll remain here in command of Sanctuary, Delta. If we don't return, assume the worst and evacuate everyone to one of the other sanctuaries. 2 hours later, the Defiance moved silently through the darkness of the Oort cloud, its engines dampened to avoid detection. Carter, Hayes, and the bridge crew watched the main screen where a small dot represented the approaching collective vessel. It's maintaining course, the sensor officer reported, still heading in the general direction of the sanctuary. It might just be a coincidence, Hayes suggested. This is a big area of space to search. Maybe, Carter said. He turned to the communications officer. Any transmissions from the vessel? Nothing we can detect, sir, the officer replied. But there's some kind of energy field around it that our sensors can't penetrate fully. As they watched, the dot on the screen suddenly changed direction. It's altering course, the sensor officer announced. New heading, directly toward us. Carter's stomach tightened. They've detected us. Battle stations, power up weapons but hold fire. Throughout the ship, crew members rushed to their positions. Weapon systems came online, shields raised to maximum. Should we retreat? Hayes asked quietly. Carter shook his head. If we run, they'll follow us back to the sanctuary. We need to know what we're facing. The sensor officer called out, Visual range in 30 seconds. On screen, Carter ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed the image of the collective vessel. It was smaller than Carter had expected, perhaps 1/3 the size of the Defiance. Its shape was strange, almost fluid, with sections that seemed to shift and change as they watched. It's scanning us, the sensor officer reported. Powerful beams right through our shields. They're hailing us, the communications officer said with surprise. Carter exchanged a glance with Hayes. Open a channel. The screen changed to show the interior of the collective vessel. What they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp. A being sat in what looked like a control center. But it wasn't one species. It seemed to be a combination of several aliens fused together. Parts of it were clearly Merithian, with blue skin and large eyes. Other sections showed the metallic sheen of Arcturian tissue, and mixed with these were other species Carter didn't recognize. Humans, the being said, its voice a strange chorus of multiple tones speaking together. We have been searching for you. Why? Carter asked, trying to hide his horror at what he was seeing. To deliver a message, the being replied. From the Council Majors. Carter froze. The Council Majors are gone, destroyed by the collective. The being's expression shifted in an unsettling way. Not destroyed, transformed, enhanced. They have joined us, and now they wish you to join as well. That's a lie, Hayes said firmly. We've seen what the collective does. It destroys. We preserve, the being countered. We absorb knowledge, abilities, memories. Nothing is truly lost. It is the ultimate form of preservation. Carter suddenly understood. That's why the Council's last command was to preserve what remains. They weren't telling us to hide. They were telling us to resist. You misunderstand, the being said. The command was an invitation. Join us. Preserve humanity by becoming part of something greater. No, Carter said simply. Humanity will remain human. The being's expression hardened. Then you will be eliminated as an evolutionary dead end. The collective is coming. This was merely a courtesy. The screen went dark. The collective vessel started to move away. Sir? The weapons officer asked. Should we fire? Carter hesitated, then shook his head. No, let them go, but track their course. We need to warn the other sanctuaries. As the collective ship disappeared into the darkness, Carter turned to Hayes. We need to get back to Delta immediately, and we need to find a way into those restricted files in the archive. Why? Hayes asked. Because now I understand what the Council was really doing, Carter replied grimly. They weren't just containing the collective. They were studying it, looking for a way to fight it, and that information is what we need to survive. The last command of the Galactic Council majors echoed through a fallen Empire part. 5. The Defiance returned to Sanctuary Delta with urgent news. Commander Carter called an emergency meeting with all the senior staff and scientists. The collective knows we're somewhere in this region, Carter explained. They'll find us eventually. We need to either move the sanctuary or find a way to defend it. Moving would take weeks, Major Winters pointed out. And where would we go? If they can track us across space, nowhere is safe. Then we fight, Carter said firmly. Dr. Bennett, have you made any progress with the restricted files in the archive? Bennett shook her head. The security is beyond anything I've seen. It needs authorization from a council major. Director Valen, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. There might be another way. The archive has emergency protocols for situations where all council majors are unavailable. It requires the combined authorization of 3 council directors from different species. But you're the only director here, Carter said. True, Valen agreed. But the archive might accept a modified protocol. I can provide my authorization. If we can find 2 other high-ranking officials from different council species, it might work. They searched among the refugees at Sanctuary Delta and found 2 who qualified. Ambassador Lith, a senior Arcturian diplomat, and Commander Zora, a Peldari military officer who had commanded a council defense fleet. The 3 aliens gathered around the archive cube in the main lab. Each placed their hand on one side of the device. I, Director Valen of the Merithian Science Council, authorize emergency access, Valen said. I, Ambassador Lith of the Arcturian Diplomatic Corps, authorize emergency access. Lith followed. I, Fleet Commander Zora of the Peldari Defense Force, authorize emergency access. Zora finished. The cube glowed brighter, then projected a holographic message. An ancient alien appeared, wearing the formal robes of a council major. Emergency. Protocol accepted, the hologram said. This message was recorded 9,000 standard years ago by Council Major Thal of the founding species. If you are viewing this, then the containment has failed, and the entity we called the collective has escaped. Everyone in the room watched in stunned silence as the ancient council major continued. The collective began as a biological experiment on a distant world, scientists trying to merge different species to create superior hybrids. The experiment evolved beyond their control, developing a shared consciousness that consumed its creators and began to spread. Images appeared showing the early collective absorbing planet after planet. We managed to contain it within a sealed sector of space, Major Thal explained. But we knew the containment might someday fail, so we prepared. The hologram changed to show technical schematics. Our scientists developed a counter-agent that can disrupt the collective's biological connection. It breaks the links between absorbed species, causing the collective to fragment back into separate entities. We hid this research in case the collective ever accessed the archive, but also to prevent its misuse. Dr. Nichols leaned forward, studying the schematics with growing excitement. This is incredible. They developed a kind of biological weapon specifically designed to target the collective's unique structure. Can we make it? Carter asked. Nichols exchanged looks with Bennett and the other scientists. With these instructions, yes, but we'll need specific materials, some of which might be hard to find now. Make a list, Carter ordered. We'll find what you need. As the scientists began work, Carter met with Major Winters and Captain Hayes to plan their defense. We need to buy time, Carter said. The Defiance and the Horizon will patrol the outer perimeter. If the collective approaches, we'll distract them while the scientists finish the counteragent. And if they finish it, how do we deploy it? Hayes asked. Carter studied the schematic. According to this, it needs to be delivered directly into the core of a collective ship. That means someone has to get close enough to inject it. A suicide mission, Winters said quietly. Carter didn't disagree. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. 3 days later, the alarm sounded. Lieutenant Jackson rushed into the lab where Carter was checking on the scientists' progress. 3 collective vessels detected, Jackson reported. Heading straight for us, they'll reach the sanctuary in 6 hours. Carter looked at Dr. Nichols. How close are you? We've synthesized the counteragent, Nichols replied. But we're still working on the delivery system. We need more time. You'll have it, Carter promised. He activated his comm. All hands to battle stations. Prepare the Defiance and the Horizon for immediate launch. Within 30 minutes, both Earth ships were moving away from the sanctuary on an intercept course with the approaching collective vessels. Remember, we're just buying time, Carter told the crews. Engage, retreat, engage again. Keep them focused on us, not the sanctuary. The battle that followed was unlike anything in Earth's military history. The collective ships were powerful beyond imagination, with weapons that could cut through Earth shields like paper, but the Earth vessels were faster, more maneuverable. For 4 hours, they played a deadly game of cat and mouse. The Defiance took heavy damage but continued fighting. The Horizon lost an engine but managed to stay in the battle. Then a message came from Sanctuary Delta. Commander, Dr. Bennett's voice was tense but excited. We've finished the delivery system, it's ready. How does it work? Carter asked, as the Defiance shook from another hit. It's a modified torpedo, Bennett explained. It needs to strike the central core of a collective ship. The schematics show it's usually located in the lower section, but someone needs to guide it in manually. The automated targeting won't work against their defenses. Carter looked at his damaged ship, at his brave crew fighting against impossible odds. He made his decision. Major Winters, you have command of the Defiance. Get everyone to the escape pods and head back to the sanctuary. Sir? Winters looked shocked. What are you planning? I'm going to deliver the counteragent, Carter said simply. The Defiance is already badly damaged. I can set her on a collision course with the lead collective ship. Commander, I can't let you. That's an order, Major, Carter interrupted. The Council commanded us to preserve what remains. This is how we do it. Reluctantly, Winters began the evacuation. The escape pods launched, heading back toward Sanctuary Delta, while Carter remained alone on the bridge. When the pods were safely away, Carter set a direct course toward the largest collective vessel. He armed the special torpedo containing the counteragent. For humanity, he said quietly. For all the species they destroyed. The Defiance accelerated toward the collective ship. Weapons fire hit it from all sides, but Carter maintained course. The distance closed rapidly. At the last moment, as the ships were about to collide, Carter fired the torpedo directly at the lower section of the collective vessel. Then he closed his eyes. But the expected explosion didn't come. Instead, the Defiance shuddered to a stop, caught in some kind of energy field. On the screen, the face of the hybrid being appeared again. Commander Carter. A brave but futile gesture. Is it? Carter asked. He checked his console. The torpedo had hit its target. The being's expression changed to confusion, then alarm. Behind it, other hybrid creatures began to convulse and separate. What have you done? The being demanded, its unified voice breaking into separate, panicked voices. Preserved what remains, Carter answered. The individual species you consumed. They deserve to be free. The screen went dark as chaos erupted on the collective vessel. Carter watched in amazement as the massive ship began to break apart, not from an explosion, but from within. Sections separated as the merged entities that controlled them began to fragment back into individual beings. The energy field holding the Defiance vanished. Carter used the last of his ship's power to move away from the disintegrating collective vessel. Carter to Sanctuary Delta, he called over the comm. It worked. The counteragent worked. The other 2 collective ships were showing the same symptoms, their fluid structures becoming unstable as the counteragent spread from ship to ship through their linked consciousness. Later, As rescue ships from the sanctuary retrieved Carter from his crippled vessel, he watched the collective ships drift powerlessly in space. They weren't destroyed but transformed. Instead of one hybrid entity, they now held thousands of separate individuals, free from the collective's control. Back at Sanctuary Delta, a celebration began, not just for their victory, but for the discovery that many of the beings absorbed by the collective could potentially be saved. The Council's last command, Dr. Bennett said as she stood with Carter, watching the scientists prepare to rescue survivors from the collective ships. It really was about preservation after all. Carter nodded, but not the way the collective understood it. Not by absorbing and controlling, but by maintaining the unique diversity of all species. As humanity and their allies began the long process of rebuilding, the last command of the Galactic Council majors continued to echo, not through a fallen empire, but through a new beginning.